Outside of Deutsche Bank inspired volatility this morning, which we think probably ends up in a Deutsche Bank rights issue, the main issues this week have been firstly the presidential debate and secondly the OPEC meeting. In the OPEC meeting, we've had the first piece of intervention in a long time. So after 2 years of uninterrupted expansion of output, we're going to see some details in November about who's going to rein in their output. There is some degree of skepticism in this because we had an agreement in early 2016 that was meant to be put into practice in April. That didn't happen. The implementation is unlikely to happen until 2017 anyway. And OPEC has a long history of cheating quotas, and we have no agreement in place for Libya, for Nigeria or Iran. Also, this capitulation in the cartel is more likely to lead to non-OPEC producers being able to produce more over the longer term, and that non-OPEC 60% market share of the oil market is likely to be sustained because of this capitulation. In the presidential debates, the market has now started to focus a little bit more on this, and we saw a pickup in volatility. You can see the VIX spread here. We're also looking at the US dollar Mexican peso as probably the most sensitive index to this election, with weakness in Mexican pesos as Trump has gained traction in polls, and then a small rebound on post the presidential debate. Key considerations around the election are clearly fiscal stimulus, trade protectionism, and tax reform. At the moment, the base case is that you'll have a divided White House and Congress, which has limited scope for policy change. Polls aren't predicting a big enough win for Clinton to flip the House control to Democrats, and there remains heavy skepticism over the polls due to Brexit and Trump's ability to beat the odds repeatedly in the whole of this process so far. So we look at what do the improved odds of a Trump win mean for markets. Trump initially represents greater uncertainty, but the actual economic impact of Trump presidency has two sides to it. Firstly, the greater possibility of tax cuts, which will be stimulative for the global economy. Secondly, the negative for markets is the possibility of greater tariffs on trade and a tighter labour pool in the States. The possibility of a Brexit-like outcome where uncertainty gives way to optimism seems like a realistic scenario. And the lessons we learnt from Brexit were that keeping it simple is the best way to trade such an event, and selling sterling against the dollar was a far better way to trade that particular outcome. The election is focusing people's minds on the likelihood of fiscal policy and a major policy shift in terms of the stimulus. Unfunded tax cuts or spending increases could replace the very loose monetary policy that we've seen. And that's possible because of the low borrowing rates that we have at the moment. There's diminished concern over the debt burden. The world is short on demand at the moment, and limited scope for further monetary policy from here. And longer term, in the UK particularly, we need some sort of longer term policy that will cover the lifespan of this long protracted exit from the EU. Primarily though, is that if markets believe there is a change in the direction of policy, then stocks will preempt it. So the two effects of fiscal policy are firstly direct demand in cyclicals, and the likelihood of sectors like infrastructure and house building doing better because of that improved demand. The indirect effect is also equally important. So that's the effect of inflection in policy and yields starting to go up because you have not got this accommodative monetary policy position. And that is beneficial for banks, financials, insurance, as they will benefit from rising yields. Going forward into next week, it's light on results. We've got Tesco and Yum Brands on Wednesday of the Killik focused, and we've also got Samsung on Friday. That's it from me. Thanks very much.